Hello and welcome to the English Box. Today we're going to talk about the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. We're going to look at the structure first of all, and then we're going to look at the use of the tense and the different situations and circumstances in which the tenses are used. So first of all, if we look at the structure of the present perfect simple. In the first example, we can see an affirmative sentence. I have worked in 4 different countries. So we begin with the subject, in this case I, followed by the auxiliary, have or has, then the past participle, such as worked in this instance, and then the complement. In a negative sentence, we have to add not after the auxiliary. So, I have not worked in any different countries, or if you contract the auxiliary and the negation, I haven't worked in any different countries. In third person, this would be has. He hasn't worked in any different countries. He, she, or it. Finally, the question form. In the question form, it is very, very important to remember to invert the subject and the auxiliary. So the auxiliary comes first, followed by the subject. Have you worked in any different countries? So the auxiliary first, followed by the subject, followed by the past participle, and then the complement. So that's the structure of the present perfect simple in the affirmative, negative, and question form. Now we'll look at the structure of the present perfect continuous. So it's very similar, but you have to use been and the present participle in place of the past participle. So if we look at the first example, I have been working in London for 5 years. We have the subject first, then have or has, the auxiliary verb, been, and then the present participle and the complement. Just like in the present perfect simple, the auxiliary verb has to be made negative in a negative sentence with not. I haven't been studying hard recently. And in the question form, you have to invert the subject and the auxiliary verb. So the auxiliary verb have or has comes first. Have you been studying hard recently? Okay, so we've looked a little bit at the structure. What about the use of the tense? We have 2 explanations here. The first explanation relates to the present perfect simple, and the second explanation to the present perfect continuous. The first one reads, the important thing in the present perfect simple is that something has finished. We are interested in the outcome or the result of the activity, not the activity itself. We used the present perfect simple to talk about how much and how many times, that is to say quantity or quantities, in relation to completed actions. The time of these actions is unspecified. So you may remember from a previous video of ours, we looked at the difference between present perfect simple and past simple. And we said that you couldn't use a finished time expression, specific time expression, with the present perfect simple. So I say I played football yesterday and not I have played football yesterday, because yesterday is a finished and specific time expression. With the present perfect continuous, the explanation says, the important thing is the activity. It is not important whether the activity has been finished or not, and often the activity is not complete or very recently completed. We use the present perfect continuous to give information about how long an action has been taking place. So let's explain this a little bit further with some examples. So we have a very pretty diagram here, lots of different colors, and these colors relate to the sentences 1 to 5 underneath. So number 1, the red dot, says I've seen that film 3 times already. Present perfect simple. And here you'll notice we're talking about how many times have you done this in your life or in the given time period. So I've seen that film 3 times already. I've read 30 pages of my new book relates to the green section. This means I've read 30 pages so far, or up until now. I haven't finished the book. I've been reading the book, perhaps for 1 week, but I've read 30 pages. How many or how much, remember with the present perfect simple. I've been to France once, an unspecific time. You don't say when, you only say you have the experience, or you've had the experience of visiting or going to France. I've never owned a pet. We're talking about in our entire life. It's never happened. And finally, I've done my homework. We don't say when, we don't specify a time. The important thing is that the homework is finished. Okay, let's move on to look at the present perfect continuous then. You'll notice at the bottom of this slide there's a note about how we can use for and since with the present perfect simple, and how we can use it with the present perfect continuous. Often it's interchangeable, so you can use the simple or the continuous with for or since, but as native speakers we tend to prefer to use it with the present perfect continuous. So if we look at the next diagram, you can see 3 actions, long single actions that started in the past and are still true in the present. I've been living in New York for 2 years is the yellow action. I've been working here since October 2009, the red action. And I've been feeling a little bit down in the dumps is the green action, the shorter action. So with for and since, we can give the time period and the time point. For is for the time period, for 2 years, and since for the time point, since 2009. If we don't use a time expression, like in number 3, it normally means recently or lately. So in the last few hours perhaps, days, or even weeks. I've been feeling a bit down in the dumps, a bit depressed. Could mean for the last few days, for the last few weeks, maybe for the last few hours. Okay, a few more examples there. I've been feeling really tired. Again, would mean perhaps I haven't slept well in the last week. Perhaps I've been out partying too much. And now I've been feeling really tired as a consequence. You've been watching too much television. Typical sentence the mother says to the child, go outside and get some fresh air. You've been watching too much television. In the last 2 hours, you haven't moved from in front of the box. I've been running. You come in through the front door. You're sweating. You're red in the face. And you say, I've been running. The action has only just finished. And the evidence, the effects of the action are evident, are there for everyone to see, are very obvious in that moment. And finally, it's been raining. The same again, puddles all over the floor, it's very wet, it's been raining. It's just stopped. If you say it's been raining for 2 hours, it means it's still going. Okay, so, bye bye.